¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday. Welcome, everybody. It is another week, folks. Welcome. Welcome, BPCL. Bipedal Meatbag. Michael Hassler. Heat, how's it going? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here's my take on the polls in the month of June in the 7 states I'm looking at. There's been one poll that has even looked at LV. Everyone else was RV and all the last LVs were weeks ago, so just treat it as all noise from here on out. When polls come out, I will take a closer look. If they drop a ton at the same time, it might take a while, but I'm going to try to do one a day once they come out. Bipedal Meatbag, we're also 5 months from the election. A lot can happen. That's true. I'm definitely not going back to the May polls to evaluate them. I'm just going to start doing that going forward. To help the greater ADT community with their blood pressure and mental health. It's Jover. I do agree. Vote local. There's not a single Democrat running for a single office in my local elections. Don't vote based on party. Google the candidates. That's true. I don't believe there is such a thing as a good Republican, but if there is, sure as fuck not gonna find it out here in deep red country. Nah, here we vote against our best interests. True. Welcome, everybody. All right. Folks, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. Keep liking the stream on the YouTube. I appreciate it. Join the Discord. Consider checking out the merch store with !merch. Hit the YouTube subscribe button. EU has me very doom pilled. Are we covering that today? Nah. Europe's not real. That's good news. Just to give you a quick TLDR for the folks that don't know, in the election, it seems like the far right has gained some footholds, particularly and notably in France, and notably in France and Italy and Germany, which yeah. So that's what BPCO is referencing. Rise of fascism averted. True. Rise of fascism can be averted if you don't believe it exists. That's how you do it. You pretend it doesn't exist. Yeah, we'll call it ostriching, exactly. Francis toast, indeed. No, it doesn't work. The place where it's happening needs to not exist, so it can't rise here. Well, I've got some unfortunate news on that end. We tried pretending it's not happening in America and it got everywhere. Yeah, I've got some bad news on that end. It's happening here, irrespectively of what's happening, what's going on in Europe. I have some fascism on the top of my ceiling fans. How am I supposed to even get to that? Well, it doesn't exist, right? Turn it on at high speed. Okay, that's usually what defeats fascism. Put your fans on high speed. All right, folks, we got plenty of stuff to go through. Let's go. How about we go through, like, an incredibly American story, okay? Why don't we do a quintessential American story, okay? I feel like that's the place to start. Something vacuum trying to get a punchline. That reminds me of when heating prices were high this winter, everyone's complaining. The electric company literally sent people a list of energy saving tips, including run your ceiling fans backwards. Thanks. Amazing.
Lunchables, a feat of outright American innovation. 13 grams of protein, under 310 calories, 100% freshness, easy, served in lunchrooms across America.
Consumer Reports recommends that Lunchables should not be allowed in schools. It can only be harmful to children and should be avoided.
The National School Lunch Program now features apples, whole grain bread, and this. Most people probably assumed whatever this is was bad for you, but now we know independently.
Yeah, like, man. ultra processed food. Yeah. I don't know how you would even make them go backwards. Maybe if you wire them, I don't know. Maybe I'm talking crap, but maybe if you wire them in a certain way. No, that doesn't work. I actually don't know how you would get the fan to go backwards, now that I think about it. There's literally a switch, guys. Really? Unironically? Huh. Alright, well, never mind. Moving on. What? Lunchables and Nestle is Lunchables a Nestle product? Good question. That isn't actually a good question. Who makes Lunchables? No, Nestle doesn't own Lunchables, but someone just as bad, Kraft Heinz owns Lunchables. Kinetic Pause, welcome. Indeed. Well, today we learned something. Today we learned something. Apparently there are switches inside your fan that can make it go backwards. Is Kraft doing the water thing? I'm willing to overlook a lot in a Nestle competitor. No, no, I don't think they're that nefarious, although they may be nefarious. Like, hey, I mean, like, yeah, sure. Like, we're not at like literal child slavery as far as I know. But we're at poisoning children. So yeah, with a buddy, you got to get up there and physically flip a switch, as some models may not even have it. Gotcha. Well, the more you know. I'm bodyboard. I will take some vowel shit to pick the least best option versus Nestle. We've got 14-year-olds working in factory farms. It's bleak. Yeah, didn't was it Illinois? Man, I just literally saw it. They're trying to loosen regulations for kids to be able to drive to work. That just happened. I want to say Illinois. I can't exactly remember. Well, if I can find it, I'll put it up.
Answer down the road. We sat down with Consumer Reports, we discussed their study, and what it says about our food safety system, and we found big implications about the power of food conglomerates like Kraft Heinz, who see schools as the next great untapped market. But first, let's rewind to 1988 and ask the basic question. How did something as obviously unhealthy as Lunchables even get developed in the first place?
So Kraft had a problem. They had surplus amounts of processed cheese, processed ham that they wanted to sell.
That's Michael Moss. He wrote the book on the development of Lunchables.
Yeah, not food, by the way. Yeah, that's good news for everyone on the road. It's 6 a.m., Timmy. Time to get to school work. Is Governor Scrooge McDuck going to let that through? I know a lot of Illinois people say their governor is the good billionaire, and I'd say that Scrooge McDuck is the good billionaire. He was a protagonist of DuckTales. I forget. I'm going to be honest. I forget which state this happened in, but if I find it, I'll put it up, because it might not be Illinois. It might be a completely different state. But it was something to the effect of, like, the legislature, they're wanting to loosen regulations for 14-year-old kids driving because, quote, the kids need to drive to work, unquote. That was a paraphrasing. Kamikaze, welcome. I'm confused about Lunchables not being food. To be honest, the only reason I stopped eating Lunchables was this serving size. Oh, no, it's not. It's not food. It's definitely not food. It's, they call it food. It looks like food. It tastes like food, but, yeah, it's incredibly, ultra processed, which, yeah. Not good. Not good for you. $5 for 5 1-inch squares of lunch meat. Yeah, ultra processed, lunch meat.
and other processed foods in our industrial food system. By 1988, adults had stopped buying Oscar Mayer bologna and ham, in part because they were loaded with saturated in the weeks it.
Oh no. Man, our reports. Man. Well, I regret to inform you that you probably are not gonna last a long time here. What are we talking about? Good question. I love debates and hate the secular world. That's an interesting combo.
Took to get the trays to store shelves. So
I'm sure that we'll hear nothing but flawless logic coming out of your chats, I imagine. Nothing but flawless logic, right?
the company
The reason why we tested Lunchables is when this was announced last year that these products would be made available for the school lunch program, our reaction was similar to a lot of parents in that, how is a product like this being made available to our kids?
Consumer Reports worked with an independent accredited lab to test how safe Lunchables are against California standards. Why California? We'll get to that in a moment.
So what we found in these test results for lead particularly,
The short answer is that California has a little bit more stricter rules, I imagine. Folks, Kraft makes all the food. They don't need to use Lunchables to get in the school lunches.
were really high levels, especially when you factor in that there's no safe level for kids. Exposure to lead has been linked to things like heart disease, certain types of cancers.
Kraft Heinz defends itself by saying that lead naturally occurs in the food system. They're right.
Lead is contained in the water that's used in processing. It's also can be found in the soil.
But it's not the full picture.
It can be picked up in the processing equipment that companies often use when they're processing these products and putting them into the food supply.
Cool.
So when you combine all of that, that's how you get these high levels of lead.
Consumer Reports test also found unhealthy levels of sodium and phthalates. Phthalates are chemicals that leak into food through packaging.
Cool.
The problem with phthalates is it's a hormone and estrogen disruptor. It can increase their risk of developing other health issues down the road, such as high blood pressure, certain types of cancers,
Cool.
and cardiovascular problems.
Kraft Heinz, of course, responded to kind of this research, and one of the things they said,
Okay, done with Lunchables. Yeah. Like I said, we don't listen. Nestle is horrible, but poisoning children and yeah, and I think that's up there too. I like the Japanese model. The students at many schools help prepare the noon meal for the whole school. That's cool.
was all of our foods meet strict safety standards. What's your kind of reaction to that?
There are two sentences in a company press release that should always cause consumers to be skeptical. First, at Company X,
Safety is our top priority. But now it's just hot dogs filled with cheese.
food safety is our top priority. Typically, when they're writing that, it's because they've done something wrong or about to do something wrong. The second sentence is, we follow the strictest standards available. Sometimes the reason they say that is because they're virtually non-existent.
Which is why Consumer Reports used California standards.
There are no enforceable federal standards as it relates to lead. And so it's very easy for companies to say that we're following a standard because they don't exist.
They also said, from a nutritional standpoint, our NSLP approved Lunchables can be a part of a well-balanced school meal. What's your reaction to that?
The emphasis should be on the well-balanced part and not necessarily on the Lunchables. When you look at a product that's less than 4 ounces that contains over half of the daily sodium intake, that's really problematic. It's important to note that we
Gave his daughter Lunchables when he was a single pole father, though. Yeah, I mean, that's not, just to be clear, I'm finding this out. Not that, it's one thing, okay, well, it's not the best, but this is all we've got. But, I didn't know this. I didn't know this because I used to eat Lunchables a lot. Yeah. If it doesn't resemble something real, probably is a bad idea to eat it. My dad opened up a mean can of soup.
didn't test the school lunch versions for this testing.
Yeah, I've definitely consumed more Lunchables than I would have if I knew this before. Now we can try to do better. I'm addicted to Diet Dr. Pepper.
Project. We were only able to test the grocery store bought versions, but in looking at the labels that are made available online, the school lunch version of Lunchables have higher sodium levels.
So why are Lunchables in schools? It's really a combination of two different factors. The first is the
Money!
guidelines. According to Brian, the USDA guidelines determine nutritional targets, including the allowable sodium level.
So as long as a product follows a particular guideline that USDA has set, then that product is allowed.
Kraft Heinz says they have improved nutrition that meets the federal guidelines for the National School Lunch Program.
Here's what they're not saying. The government recently revised the guidelines. In order to be eligible for elementary school lunches, a product can have up to 935 milligrams of sodium.
The Lunchables turkey and cheddar cracker stackers, the school version contains 930 milligrams. So they just fit under the new nutritional guidelines that will continue to be eligible for being in the school lunch program.
The second is lobbying. In the last 5 years, Kraft Heinz has spent over $5 million lobbying the federal government. A big chunk was on USDA food purchasing programs, which housed the school lunch program. One of the tricky things is that local school districts, not the USDA, are the ones setting menus and making the actual purchasing decisions. The Washington Post has been investigating the addition of Lunchables to school programs, and a lot of it just comes down to the local leadership. Some districts are okay with Lunchables. Others aren't. New York City and Houston won't sell them because they're unhealthy. So what can people do?
It's really important for parents to know that they should work with their kids and figure out what options are being made available in their local school program, what options are available in the cafeteria.
Or maybe we shouldn't have a system where we are thinking about what we can give our kids based on what we can afford because companies take advantage. I like a good real Dr. Pepper. My view is if you're going to have something unhealthy, make sure you're getting a payoff for it. Yeah, the payoff is that it tastes good. That's about it. But other than that, not good. I mean, like, even these, like, supposedly healthier soda, I'm not expecting this to be healthy. This isn't good for you. It just doesn't have the sugar and the nasty stuff as much. They just taste so bad. The Lunchables, I love Lunchables. I'm not gonna lie. As a kid, I used to enjoy the Lunchables. Is that Zevia? Yeah, it's Zevia. Zero sugar soda. And the amount of ingredients is like a handful, you know? So as far as soda goes, this is okay, but I'm not drinking this expecting this to be, healthy. It's just not as bad as drinking, vanilla Coca-Cola. That's what I mean. For me, the best option is to not having anything unhealthy, but failing that plan B is to have the tastiest unhealthy option. I couldn't finish my 6-pack of black cherry. Didn't agree with me, so be warned. Well, you can ship it over to me, because that's not bad. Right now, I'm on the vanilla cola tip. These make good mixers, too. I'll drop them off. The cream soda is good too, by the way. I have a stack of cream soda of this Zevia stuff. Yeah, you're drinking the original cola flavor. And I also have the caffeine. They make caffeine-free versions. So we have a couple of those cans too. But yeah, I'm not under the impression that this is like healthy for you. I've never met a bad cream soda. I just get tired of it fast. It's good. It's good. As far as soda goes, cream soda is pretty good. Vanilla cola is really good when you mix it with rum, allegedly.
And then encourage them
to pick options that are lower in sodium, pick fresh fruits and vegetables.
But there's also something a bit bigger. According to Kraft Heinz's own research, 99% of the coverage of Lunchables being sold in schools has been positive. Consumers can actually fight back.
We are encouraging people to sign a petition that urges USDA to remove these products from the school lunch program. What we want to do is present these signatures to USDA to really highlight how concerned parents are about this. They can influence this process, and they can influence state and local school districts to remove these products.
Indeed.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to
Ruben Forrest, welcome. Thank you for the follow. I'm limiting myself to 2 sodas a day from cartoonish quantities. I also like to have my cheat days and tell myself go X days without anything bad, and you can have one day of the tastiest thing you can find as long as you can count it. Yeah, I mean, like, the way I understand it, it's like if you have, you know, sugar, small amounts of sugar, is okay. But yeah. What's the saying? The dose makes the poison. Does that make sense? The dose makes the poison. I remember when my high school got Hot Pockets and as fast food was introduced. Nice. I actually liked Hot Pockets too. I'm sure that's really bad for you too. I wouldn't doubt it. Joe Biden is older than Bill Clinton. Can you believe that? No, really? I'm glad. We all are much more knowledgeable now. Thank you. I didn't know that until today. My niece loves Hot Pockets. Don't blame her.
Recently, a group of more than 2,000 Swiss women won a historic lawsuit against their country, which put Switzerland on the hook for its climate change impacts. I say historic because this is the first time that a climate change related suit has been taken up by the European Court of Human Rights. And even more recently, a group of island nations earned a favorable opinion for the Oceans Court that will help them hold polluting countries accountable. What did these cases argue, and what—
Everybody Democrats here? Yes. Everybody. Okay? Everyone in this chat. Everybody.
What do these victories mean for cases to come? Hey y'all, it's Becky here from the Beckosphere, where we talk about the climate crisis and clean energy transition. If those are important topics to you, hit that subscribe button below and ring the bell so you don't miss every time I post. Now let's get into today's climate news, starting with the Swiss case. So, the group of women we're talking about today is called the Association of Senior Women for Climate Protection Switzerland. Here's a Swiss name on the screen because I will not pronounce that well.
Me neither. Okay. This isn't a real language. I speak for everyone in this chat when I say I love Joe Biden and have no tolerance for people who don't vote. Exactly. I mean, I'm not American, I just like to discuss.
All the women named in the lawsuit are over the age of 55, with an average age of being 74. This is because people over the age of 55, especially women, are more likely to be impacted by heat-related stressors and illnesses made worse by the climate crisis. The plaintiffs use this fact to argue that Switzerland violated their right to life and other legally binding guarantees listed under the European Convention of Human Rights by not sufficiently working to tackle the climate crisis. Every European country has signed on to follow these rights except for the Vatican City, Belarus, and Russia, of course. Let's take a look at the merits of their case. Firstly, it's very clear from the trends we're seeing every summer that Europe is getting hit by more extreme and long heat waves, which are causing mass snowmelt, drought, and wildfires. In fact, Europe is warming up twice as fast as the rest of the world, not to be outdone by the poles, according to the Copernicus Climate Change Service. This is a concerning trend that has resulted in 30%.
Yeah, Yeah, the same organization that someone the other day said that they had an agenda and couldn't tell me what that agenda is or how this group was problematic. You don't have any interest, I can assure you that you do. I can assure you that you have biases. Oh, he means like steak? Oh, okay, gotcha.
percent more heat deaths on the continent compared with 20 years ago. In Switzerland, known as the Water Tower of Europe, one of the biggest concerns is how much snowmelt has declined yearly. In just the last 2 years, Swiss glaciers have lost 10% of their volume.
Europe is getting swamped.
Which is disastrous because that's how much volume the glaciers lost between 1960 and 1990. The melting point, which is the point at which precipitation turns into rain versus snow, is rising, causing a lot of the precipitation to just stay as rain. This causes flooding and landslides locally and drought for much of Europe that relies on the snow melt in the summer to replenish their groundwater. So that's just a bit about how climate change is already impacting Swiss people. So what has Switzerland done to reduce its greenhouse gases to slow down this disaster? Actually, it's been one of the more successful European countries when it comes to dropping emissions. These reductions have been primarily from the building and transportation sector, thanks to the high adoption rates of electric vehicles and heat pumps. That being said, according to 2022 numbers provided by the International Energy Agency, almost half of Switzerland's energy still comes from fossil fuels, with an additional 12.6% coming from biofuels and burning waste, which I personally don't really count as clean energy most of the time. So Switzerland's main sources of clean energy are nuclear and hydropower, which account for more than 28% and 11.5% of the country's energy mix, respectively. The Swiss women also argue that their fellow residents are consuming beyond what's considered sustainable for the planet to sustain future generations, something that the government hasn't really tried to tackle through policy, despite its own statistics office reporting on that issue. Due to the country's continued use of fossil fuels and lack of necessary policies, the Climate Action Tracker ranked Switzerland as insufficient when it came to their role to keep emissions below 1.5 degrees Celsius, like the Paris Agreement requires. In the end, the European Court of Human Rights sided with the women, concluding that Switzerland has failed to properly tackle its climate impact, resulting in increased death of its citizens from
Yeah, I think this is like across the board, right? The world is kind of failing in that sense. It's not just
extreme
Switzerland.
heat. Specifically, Switzerland failed its promise to cut emissions by 20% by 2020 compared with 1990 levels, violating Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights. The court narrowed in on the right to respect private and family life, not the right to life, interestingly, but whatever works. The court found that Article 8 of the convention, quote, encompasses a right for individuals to effective protection by the state authorities from the serious adverse effects of climate change on their lives, health, well-being, and...
Were they just gonna keep naming random politicians? I don't understand. I suppose if we let them keep going, they were just gonna keep naming random people. Okay.
quality of life. This is a very important statement because back in 2003, the court said the convention did not encompass the right of the country's environment, just its people. But by the women making this case on the impact of climate change on the people directly relating to heat deaths, the court was able to make this caveat that climate change should be considered a risk to human health and well-being. Now for the question I'm sure is on all of your minds right now. Does this ruling hold any weight? What teeth does the European court have? Well,
right, like ultimately, like that's what matters, right? Like, is anything possible gonna come from like a legal perspective that can be enforced? Because otherwise, like, yeah, it's not that they shouldn't keep going or go through with it. It's just, you know. Oh, this is all real. Was waiting for Crockett.
The court didn't provide any specific action for Switzerland to do to remedy the situation per se. Mostly this case sets a legal precedent so that if Switzerland fails to hit its next target, which is to cut emissions by 50% by 2030, it'll have a bolstered lawsuit heading its way. More broadly, this case provides a new legal precedent for any cases involving climate change and the European countries that signed the convention. It is frustrating that there's not an immediate punishment or change the Swiss government has to contend with from the case, but we'll have to keep an eye on future cases to see if this win leans the legal climate in favor of climate action. There's already 6 more climate-related lawsuits currently waiting to be heard in front of the Human Rights Court that were paused pending this decision. These include a lawsuit against the Norwegian government that alleges it violated human rights by issuing new licenses for oil and gas exploration in the Barents Sea beyond 2035. Now, it's also important to note that the Swiss case was one of 3 climate suits brought in front of the court and was the only one to win. The other 2 were a case against 32 European governments by 6 Portuguese young people impacted by sea level rise, and a French mayor suing the French federal government for not enacting tougher climate change laws.
Yeah, which unfortunately, it was already pretty dubious that any of that was even possible under Macron, much less now that there's a shift to the right.
As you can see, people and organizations are using all kinds of methods to argue for legally backed action on climate change. This Swiss case is one of many I've seen this year, and maybe I'll go into some other cases I've seen more recently in another video. But another international court that just ruled in favor of climate action that we will talk about in this video is the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, also known as the Oceans Court. Several small island nations asked the 21 judges for advisory opinions on 2 key questions. Are greenhouse gases marine pollutants under the convention, and can countries be held accountable for that pollution? For context, the convention was signed in the 1970s by 165 countries when it ratified the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Signers include China, Russia, and India, but not the US because the Senate wouldn't ratify it.
Cool.
As per usual. While the decision of the Germany-based court is non-binding, it would provide another precedent for international and national courts to weigh future climate change decisions on. So, are greenhouse gases marine pollutants?
Yes.
Well, marine pollutants are any material that poses a risk to an aquatic ecosystem.
So greenhouse gases are a marine pollutant because by virtue of these greenhouse gases, they are directly, not just indirectly, they are directly affecting the marine ecosystems. They are literally acidifying oceans with greenhouse gases. That is a direct effect. The fact that also, like, just directly, oil spills are marine pollutants.
So let's briefly look at how greenhouse gases could fall into that category. The ocean, which covers 70% of the Earth's surface and is responsible
Right, the oceans are incredibly hot.
for more than half the oxygen we breathe, takes up the vast majority of the heat trapped by greenhouse gases. As a result, the ocean is warming at an alarming rate, sometimes reaching hot tub temperatures, and this is having major adverse impacts on marine ecosystems. So that's definitely risking aquatic ecosystems, to say the least. What I would say is an even more direct example of greenhouse gases being a marine pollutant, though, is ocean acidification. Not only are greenhouse gases causing climate change, but they are also changing the pH of our oceans by binding with other molecules in the water. This is causing many problems, including disrupting fish brain chemistry and making it difficult for plankton, which is the base of our food chain, to develop shells. It's kind of a big deal. Now, island nations are especially interested in creating precedents to sue for climate action and reparations because while they have contributed the least to climate change itself, they are
JF. Me. We're all gonna die. The Earth will recover, though. Well, I don't know if we're all gonna die, but it's gonna be really bad. Not good. Not great. It's gonna be pretty freaking bad. Yeah.
Adversely
Like
impact
we're literally talking about like the potential disruption of like one of the main ecosystems that keep us alive. That keep literally billions of people alive are just gonna be compromised and disrupted or destroyed.
impacted by it. For
Yeah.
one, they rely on these impacted ecosystems for food and economic development. Sea level rise is also making their land literally disappear and causing their fresh water to turn salty. And climate change is
Yeah, see what's happening in Florida.
causing more extreme weather events like hurricanes, which sweep through the island nations. So the plaintiffs were elated to hear a unanimous yes from the judges for both of those two questions. Greenhouse gases count as marine pollutants, and countries can be held accountable for that pollution. Yay! In fact, the judges specifically said the larger polluting nations had a greater responsibility than smaller and vulnerable ones for emitting greenhouse gases, and as a result,
I 100% agree with this. However, like, man, what system in place exists to make this enforceable, to make this happen? Because we know that's for sure that the larger polluting nations have a responsibility to kind of fix this. But the mechanism in which that process happens doesn't seem to exist. We've known this for a while. We've known this for decades. We've known a lot of things for decades. We've known that climate change is a thing. Okay, number one. We know that the climate crisis is a thing. We know that number two, that it's human made, and number three, like the wealthiest industrialized nations that have basically put us in this position, including the United States, have a responsibility to kind of like attempt to cushion this problem, cushion this crisis. But there is no mechanism by which this can be fixed, as far as I know. There's no enforceable, like, we're not even signed on to this this treaty of, this ocean law, ocean court. It's not going to happen in a moment, and people will suffer for years. Oh, definitely. Like, it's the boiling frog analogy.
the bigger polluters should provide financial support and
Quite literally.
technical assistance to the island nations. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about the cases that we talked about today. What do you think about the Swiss ruling? What do you think about the oceans?
Yeah, it's great, but like, I mean, am I wrong? Like, is there no mechanism that exists to force action, to force something to happen? I just don't think so. I don't know. I imagine if we had this, people would be taking legal avenues to make that happen. It's not fixable at this time. We are now at the point where we're just attempting to stall to have a livable planet. Oil company scientists warned their executive as early as 1950s, right? This is willful negligence. Yeah, 100%. We've known for decades. Decades. And I agree with you, Wolfglen. We're, it's not about avoiding the impacts of the climate crisis, because that's happening. Whether we want to, whether we're ready for it or not, it's happening. Because, like, I don't know what kind of analogy I would use, but like, basically, the snowball has started. The snowball has started, and there's not much you can do to stop it. It's more like you need to prepare the town at the bottom as best you can, and put up as many blocks as possible to slow the snowball that's inevitably going to reach them. Right, there's never any teeth. Yeah, and I'd wager that it's by design, but yeah, that's the problem. Like we know that like these large, wealthier, industrialized countries are responsible. How do we make them responsible? Is there self-preservation isn't enough of a motivator? I think they think that they're not going to be affected. I feel like a lot of these people, a lot of these ultra wealthy oligarchs, you know, including people who had the oil industry, I think they think that they're just not going to be affected because they have enough money and resources to kind of just insulate themselves. But at the end of the day, it's not going to matter if the worst case scenario ends up happening. It really does not matter. It really does not matter how many billions you have or how much resources you have. They do not want to believe it is more than weather and not climate issues. Read about what happened in Borneo forests become palm oil for industry. Yeah, well, the palm oil industry is very sick. Yeah, not good.
Court
It's disgusting.
ruling. How would you sue your country to effectively speed up climate action if you could? Let me know all.
I don't even know how there are multiple legal cases going on. But I don't know how that's going to play out here in the federal government.
Of your thoughts down in the comments.
And even if that was the case, like what would effectively Congress do right now? Seriously, think about it. What would Congress at this point in time legislate to attempt to improve the situation?
Section below. Just to put more cases like these on your radar, by the way, we do have 2 more international cases to look forward to. One will be heard by the International Court of Justice and focuses on whether nations are legally bound to protect against climate risks. And the other will be heard by the Inter-American Court of Human Rights in Brazil and focuses on states' obligations to address human rights concerns relating to the climate crisis. So this is an exciting time for any legal nerds in the climate space. It's time for a fun fact about Rue. This is kind of an indirect fun fact about Rue, but Rue has a new cousin. Her name is Lucy. She's a really cute little dog that my brother got from the shelter, and we are just so happy to have her as part of our little family. So welcome, Lucy. And that was sort of a fun fact about Rue.
Yeah, it is a fact about Rue. Rue has a cousin now. Companies are waiting for the government to subsidize them to deal with it so they don't spend their own money. Don't use effective and Congress in the same sentence.
Until next time, remember.
You have removed most of the members of Congress, elect new members that take climate action seriously. That would also have to impeach a lot of judges. Yeah. And palm oil is not original from Southeast Asia, but palm damages native ecosystems. Yes, it's also destructive to the ecosystems.
Remember to talk.
And it's not necessary. Like if we stopped producing palm oil and we used more sustainable alternatives, like we don't need palm oil.
Talk about the climate crisis every single day and to support your local news and environmental organizations. Thank you to the people on Patreon who helped.
Based. All right, go subscribe and do the things. I believe it increases the shelf life of products. We'll be all right. problem is the palm oil industry is the major industry in that country. That's pretty messed up. That is why companies fight us on it. Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, folks, we're almost to the headline. Oh, actually, should I even do this? Oh, I found it. Hey, Heat. I found it. It wasn't Illinois, chat. It was Iowa. It was Iowa. A new Iowa law lets kids drive to a job unsupervised when they're young as 14 and a half. The states say these kids need to get to work. The children, they yearn for the mines, okay? The children yearn for the mines. Iowa enables child labor as young as 14 until 11 p.m. in the summer, 9 p.m. during the school year, and up to 6 hours on a school day because, hey, quick question. When are the children going to do their homework or study? If they're getting home from a shift at 9 p.m. Yeah, nobody wants to work anymore. Getting strong work will set you free vibes. Jesus. The simulacra, welcome. In Iowa, it's less the mines, more than the food. Yeah. The children yearn for the food processing plants that could potentially mutilate or kill them. Yeah. Is there amendments to protect children? No. This is literally to expand, or I guess not. This is literally to expand child labor. To facilitate child labor. This is the opposite of that. There's nothing here about protecting children. Just to be clear. So that's cool. That's nice. It was Iowa, not Illinois, so I apologize. Before we get to this, because yeah. I need to go over this because this kind of ties into what we were talking about. ADT's favorite guy. Yeah, we're about to learn a lot about incredible high-level ideas in just a moment. In the U.S., but if they work, if they work under a professional contract? No, I don't know if that's what I would call it. But yeah, children, they're 14. They should not be expanding the ability for 14-year-olds to work. Anyways, the Supreme Court Monday today asked the Biden administration to weigh in on Big Oil's request to thwart litigation that could put them on the hook for billions of dollars. The one-line order will delay the litigation from advancing to trial. It follows an unprecedented pressure campaign from far-right fossil fuel allies on the court. Quote, big oil companies are fighting desperately to avoid trial in lawsuits like Honolulu's, which would expose the evidence of the fossil fuels industry, the industry's climate lies for the entire world to see, said Richard Wells, the president of the nonprofit Center for Climate Integrity, which supports climate accountability litigation. Honolulu is one of the dozen cities and states to sue oil majors for allegedly hiding the dangers of their product from the public. In October, Hawaii's Supreme Court ruled that the suit can go to trial. But the defendants petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court in February to review that decision, arguing that case should be thrown out because emissions are a federal issue that can be not tried in state court. The High Court receives thousands of petitions each year, giving each one only a small chance for being reviewed. But in recent weeks, right-wing fossil fuel allies have pushed the justices to take up oil companies' requests, publishing a slew of op-eds and social media advertisements. Some of the groups behind the pressure campaign, which experts say is unprecedented, are connected to far-right Supreme Court architect Leonard Leo, who co-chaired the ultra-conservative legal advocacy group, the Federalist Society. Quote, I've never ever seen this kind of overt political campaign to influence the court like this, said Patrick Parenteau, the professor and senior climate policy fellow at Vermont Law School, told The Guardian last week. It's not clear how much Monday's order will delay the Honolulu case, which was filed in 2020. In October of 2022, the Supreme Court referred a similar petition involving a climate accountability case brought by Colorado communities to the Department of Justice. The Solicitor General weighed in the following March, siding with the plaintiffs. While waiting an opinion on the Honolulu case, companies may also file a motion to stay or pause proceedings in similar litigations filed by other cities and states, though it's not clear the lower courts will grant them. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if this comes of anything. But this Supreme Court is, let's just say I don't have any, I'm not going to hold my breath. What about child actors in Hollywood? Well, you see how exploitative child actors are, so maybe we should have more protections, not less. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about children literally working in meat processing plants and whatnot. And the reduction in regulations for that. Does that make sense? Like, why would the response be to child labor? Be like, well, what about the children in Hollywood? Hollywood is incredibly exploitative to adults. Like, I don't understand. Did you think that I was going to say anything different? Okay. All right. So high-level ideas, folks. Let's talk about some incredibly high-level ideas. After last weekend's, I hope everyone's recovered, because we've got another banger that just came out. Okay.
So, and then of course that the appeal probably will not go well, because as you know, the 5 Supreme Court judges in New York all happen to be black females.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if you know this, but when they appeal this thing, it gets appealed to the Supreme Court of New York, obviously not to the Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court of New York has 5 black female judges.
The appeal to go to the Supreme Court of New York, because it's a New York trial. We showed you video about a month ago. It's 5 black women because of diversity.
But it's basically statistically.
There are tons of laws on kids in TV and media already. If there's an issue, normally to the child's parents.
Possible to have 5 black female Supreme Court justices.
It is virtually, someone ran the numbers on this and one of my guys can correct me, it's virtually impossible statistically to have a court makeup of 5 black women.
The left's diversity ends up with 5 black women being in charge of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, true. Known leftist movement in New York facilitates five black women in the in the Supreme Court. He's got a point. No, he doesn't. Unless his point is racism, which if you agree, then like, yeah, that's kind of suspect. How do you tell people you're racist without saying it? Indeed, he does not have a point. The chap, in addition to the absurdity, it's a complete lie. He's talking about statistically unlikely it is.
Of New York. So you might think that this has a little something to do with DEI.
So DEI and diversity did get these women at least some.
It didn't. Stop. It didn't. DEI had nothing to do with it. He wants to be on the Daily Wire so bad. He is on the Daily Wire, is he not? There's nothing. Yeah, exactly, Wolfgang. There's nothing wrong with that. But it definitely is not a DEI thing. Okay, it's just not how that happens at all. Doesn't Ruben have a show in the Daily Wire? I'm pretty sure he does.
Some of them the job. So then you have to think, do they all start?
It doesn't. It's not a DEI thing.
Or do they all kind of think the same thing? And do they think judicially the same thing?
How else would that happen, though? Wow, dude, we're having some phenomenal analysis here. How else would that happen, though? How do you think judges get put on the New York Supreme Court? Do you know how that happens? Do you know how judges are made judges? Because they're not just random people that they chose based on a diversity thing, right? Yeah, minorities came into the White House and made Trump break the law. Yeah, same energy. No, you're the one that's making the claim, dude. You're the one that's saying it seems to me like it's a DEI thing. So explain how that works, since you seem to not, I don't know how it happens. Then how can you say it seems like it's going to be something when you don't know how it happens? It seems kind of ignorant, right? Almost like maybe you should think before you speak, right? Kind of like maybe I should take 5 seconds to Google how that works, and then maybe I can kind of derive my my opinion before making myself look ridiculous, right? Does that make sense? DEI is the reason for insert thing I don't like. No, DEI is just like, it's just a replacement for like essentially like the N-word at this point. Let's ask it another way. In 1970, why were there only 8 white men on the court? Exactly. How high up do you think the New York Supreme Court is? And what do you think it is? I honestly can't imagine any way that it could happen. You don't know how judges become judges? So then how could you even have even an inkling of an opinion? You know that they have to be judges, right? Like they actually have to go through the entire process of becoming a judge, and then they have to get appointed. They have to get appointed, and then they have to get approved by the Senate. But before that can even happen, they don't just pick people off the street, right? Because they're a diversity person, a diversity hire. They have to pick from actual judges. You know that, right? There are 62 Supreme Courts in the New York, one for each county. It's the lower, not like the state Supreme Court, like the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States, you don't even have to be a lawyer, I believe. No, in this case, you do. In this case, you do. The New York State Supreme Court isn't the highest court of the state, far from it. So there's like a Supreme Court for each county. The Court of Appeals is their highest court. Gotcha. In New York, their Supreme Court is called the Court of Appeals. Gotcha. Okay. I'm thinking of like the actual, I'm thinking of like the actual like Supreme Court. Meaning like the highest court. But no. The New York Supreme Court, as it's, the nomenclature is a little bit odd, but those guys are elected, are they not? Those are elected, right? Yeah, I learned that from Megyn Kelly. In New York, their Supreme Court is called the Court of Appeals. The COA is filled by merit selection. It's more complicated. No, I meant like the actual. She actually corrected Ruben on this, but I think what Ruben is talking about is like the Court of Appeals, right?
Thing, and that they all kind of think the same thing about Trump. What a horrible thing to have to think about, that just because of someone's skin color.
But do you think that
he didn't know the Supreme Court wasn't the highest court? No, Ruben mixed a couple of things up and made up more on top. Yikes.
they probably think similar things and they probably don't like Donald Trump, and that's probably how they got the job in the first place?
That's an absurd thing to say, right? Like, how would you even know? How would you even know that Donald Trump would even end up in your court, right? It just seems so silly.
Like
so it'd be a 1 in 500,000 that they would be all black women.
Is that a crazy conspiracy theory?
And the other problem is, I know you know this, that on the appeal side there are 5 black female Supreme Court justices in New York. They wanted diversity, and they actually got the least diverse thing. Now, I know, of course, that your skin color
The
and
Supreme
gender.
Court is the lowest court in New York. Court of Appeals is the highest court.
Wait, so the Supreme...
There's not 5 female...
Oh, so it's not going to the New York Supreme...
No,
It's nice
I know
talking
New
to
York is a
lawyer.
wacky...
Oh, okay.
New York has a weird
Oh.
name for its courts. Supreme Court is the lowest court, it's the trial court.
So that's not the appeals court.
No.
Oh, well, that's refreshing.
It'll go up to the appellate division, first
I like
department.
being corrected on air, by the way.
Is that smooth?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty embarrassing.
it'll go up to the Court of Appeals.
So it goes to them first.
First, it'll go to the appellate division, first
Yeah,
department,
right.
which is the area that he was tried in, like Manhattan. And then it'll go up to the Court of Appeals, which is our highest court.
All right. Well, at least I had a
But anyway, I mean, look.
What was he even talking about then? Nobody knows. It's Dave Rubin. So the man who jumped ship from a lefty news channel to go to a right-wing one for more money to be a token would probably be familiar on how this works. That's why maybe, like, maybe slow the roll, you know? Maybe slow the roll. Yeah. Hope that's a valuable lesson.
Legit error, okay.
It's 5 black women.
David, that sounds ridiculous.
Why does he keep saying 5 black women? Where is he getting this from? Because like now I'm trying to just like parse this out. What is he talking about? Exactly. I'm sure there's more than 5 black women on the Supreme Courts, considering there's hundreds of judges. No, he doesn't have a point. Reading the process and its convoluted nominations and selection and confirmation, there's one pick of 5 top female black judges. It was historic, so they took a god pick. Was it just because they all heard like one case? Wither King, how's it going? From what I can tell, the Court of Appeals, there are 3 men and 4 women, one of them who is black. Right, that's like the big one, right? Like, that's the top. But, like, what is Dave Rubin going on about? Like, this is the closest thing I could find to his claim, and it seems like they were just involved for, like, this one case? This is like the closest thing I could find, because they were on the bench for a civil case.
Did you know that there's a specific 2,000-year-old Korean food that you can eat to help get rid of your heartburn naturally? It's called kimchi.
This is from one of the greatest Twitter feeds on Twitter. And I say that not just because it's Dave Rubin clips that mock him, but also because I'm blocked by Dave Rubin, and so I can't see what he's trying to promote at any given time.
Thank you, Dave Clips. Public service for at
You'll
least for
recall
us.
that Dave Rubin just had a sit down with Russell Brand. And as far as I can tell, much of it is just Russell Brand just going like, I need these viewers. Is Dave Rubin still on Blaze? Is he still on the Blaze?
Oh.
I think he's in the.
I think he kind of is doing his own thing with locals.
I think
and
locals
Rumble.
is the primary function for him now, but he still is on YouTube and on Rumble as well.
Yeah, but he used to be on the Blaze, and then people.
The question is 11:36. Okay, we got
opinions.
Yep.
I am a cis heterosexual male. I can't possibly have the same opinion as Dave Rubin, even though we're both Jewish. So that's where things get complicated.
Yes, right, exactly. Gray
You gotta go
areas
to
for
you got to
Z.
go to your secondary level of identity, I guess, or after skin color. But I never see skin color.
But if we want to just
here is
quickly fact check this about the panel. Do we want to just quickly fact check the number of justices on this panel?
Oh no, let's do that.
Okay, let's do that after. Okay.
That's sort of like because there's
on
a
top.
bigger problem with what he's talking about, and that is he doesn't know what he's talking about. Good.
That on the appeal side, there are 5 black female Supreme Court justices in New York.
Blacks.
They wanted diversity, and they actually got the least diverse thing. Now, I know, of course, that your skin color
The
and
Supreme
gender.
Court is the lowest court in New York. Court of Appeals is the highest court.
Wait, so the Supreme.
There's not 5
Oh, so
female-
it's not going to the New York Supreme.
No,
It's like
I know
talking
New
to
York is a
lawyer.
wacky.
Oh, okay.
New York has a weird name for its courts. Supreme Court is the lowest court, is the trial court.
So that's not the appeals court.
No.
That did, oh, well, that's refreshing.
It'll go up to the appellate division.
Yeah,
first
I like
department.
being corrected on air, by the way.
Oh.
So one of the guys didn't check it out?
The guy got the mathematical the input was wrong into the Google sheet.
So just so you're clear, because this doesn't capture just how, I mean, obviously it captures how racist he is, but when you understand how little this guy investigated what he's talking about, how wrong he is about everything associated with this, then you realize like, oh, he's just thought that he had a good racist trope.
Yeah, like my main thing is like, because this is pretty enlightening for me. My main thing is like this dude's just like trying to make like some racist kind of trope. That's exactly what I read from this entire thing.
And
from the 2-minute clip, New York trial court that Trump was convicted has called the Supreme Court. Very good chance it has 5. Very good chance it has 5 black women judges.
And with it, in New York, there are 62. Is it 62 counties? No, it was 60, but 62, about 60. And they each have their own Supreme Court, and it's not a single court. There are many justices on it. And in New York County, how many justices are there or judges are there, Bradley?
Oh, and the one he's alluding to, there are 21.
21.
21 on the appellate division of the first department, which they're talking about.
And are there 5 black women on
There are 5 black women.
There are 5 black women in this, and oddly,
Less than 25%.
It's 25% now. In New York County, I don't know. I don't have a guy.
Yeah, that tracks. That about tracks.
To do a spreadsheet to determine whether there are too many black women on the court to represent how many black women are in New York County. But regardless, that is where actually Donald Trump was tried, on that judicial level, and then it will go to an appellate court, and then it will go, if it makes it this far, to the Court of Appeals, which has 7 people on it. And I know all 7 are not black women. So Donald Trump is safe there, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, the Bronx is about 30% black, and Manhattan is about 11. So you combine both of those, which is a jurisdiction, but probably about right with 521.
I'm going to need a spreadsheet to determine whether there black people are overrepresented on the court. Okay.
Are you working on that, Bradley? You're working on it?
Bradley's doing it right now.
Have an AI do it.
We have a guy.
But I mean, I appreciate being corrected. Like, this guy is going around, and did we find what it was? Was it like some picture? What was it, Bradley?
It was a gutter level racist who posted.
Oh yeah, there's the picture. Yeah, this is what Dave Rubin thinks is some type of
Yeah, there we go.
Misleading. So the tweet said, I guess, Trump conviction is a New York State case, so can only be appealed within New York State, not to the Supreme Court. Let me introduce you to the Manhattan Appeals Court. Good luck.
Right, which is not true, because we just found that exact picture. They're justices in a Supreme Court. The deceived Fidesz became an MP in the European. No, I don't. Sorry.
And it's a picture of 3 black women there.
Or the 5.
Oh, 5.
Yeah, there it is.
Judges who took a picture because they all happened to be placed not on the Trump case, but on a different one together, and it was a historic thing, or a rare thing. Not like, oh, this is the plan versus Donald Trump. This is our team.
See you in your nightmares, Trump.
Doesn't it seem like such a waste? Why are you paying 5 judges when they all think identically because they're all black women? Why wouldn't you just pay 1? This is what people are government waste. Government waste.
You're right. You're right.
Do you imagine what must be involved? I mean, I honestly think that it's admirable that Dave Rubin does not have, at least as far as I know, a horrible drug addiction, because the idea that he can remain conscious and not have some form of escapism and have to live with the level of stupidity that he displays in public on a regular basis, in addition to obviously the racism that he found.
Yeah, literally for me, it was just the racism, because I was like, there's that doesn't seem right.
Was going to help him out there.
I got such an interesting insight into this Trump thing that I saw from some racist on Twitter.
And I'm going to, in every interview, look at, incidentally, those 3 images of him.
That's him channeling Rubin. He's just shameless and greedy.
Him on camera. Today is Wednesday.
Yeah.
Donald Trump was convicted on Friday.
Yep.
So he has done.
It's always done.
I don't know if he's done any other media aside from his own show, his interview with Randy Rockets, and going on Megyn Kelly. Maybe if he's done anything else, he said it. Like, the guy was out there, thought that he had I've really hit pay dirt with this.
Yeah.
With this mathematical equation. I mean, he does have a drug problem, but the drug is attention. So that's, I think, what kind of cushions the blow for being so wrong. And all the time and so dumb in public.
It's also funny because him and Russell are in a weird
Attention and
position
money.
where they need the Trump audience, but they're also too anti-vaxxy for Trump, so they kind of have, and they're DeSantis-y, so they, because they're in the Rumble universe, which is just basically a subsidiary of the DeSantis campaign. But what Megyn Kelly should have said to Dave Rubin when he got that fact wrong was this:
You don't respect the rule of law. You've shat all over it. That's what you did. And we know it now.
Can we play the whole clip here? There's a little bit more. There's like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
New York is a wacky.
Oh.
New York has a weird name for its courts. Supreme Court is the lowest court, is the trial court.
So that's not the appeals court.
No.
That's refreshing.
It'll go up to the appellate division first.
That's refreshing.
I like being corrected on here, by the way. That's actually very refreshing.
That's good news.
Yeah.
And then it'll go up to the Court of Appeals.
So it goes to them first.
First, it'll go to the appellate division, First Department,
right.
which is the area that he was tried in, like Manhattan. And then it'll go up to the Court of Appeals, which is our highest
leave
court.
it up.
I know.
Don't take it down. But you can almost see his palms sweating now. Like he's getting he's having to he is just so embarrassed. And it's very he there's no doubt.
Is it even possible for him to feel embarrassed? I don't know.
That he's embarrassed here.
Like genuine question. Like, is it even possible for him to feel embarrassed? When he says he likes being corrected, I think he means he is so relieved that he's wrong about these women. He's okay with being made to look a fool.
Just unclear that it's like he fully takes in like, oh my God, I can't believe how racist I am. He doesn't really think about that. It's just more like, oh, I'm being embarrassed. But at least she's a lawyer, so I don't have to really know what I'm talking about.
It's a flashback to Rogan when Rogan's like, no, that's not
100%.
true. You need building codes because they'll cut corners.
Yeah.
In like Manhattan, and then it'll go up to the Court of Appeals, which is our highest court. I know. I don't know why they call the Court of Appeals the highest court.
Interesting. All right. Well, at least I had a
But anyway, I mean,
had
look.
a legit error. Okay.
Sure.
What's a legit error?
I mean, like I had the racist error, and then I had just a mistake, like it didn't know anything I was talking about error. So
I mean, it seems like the guy had the error. I mean, the guy didn't have the
damn guy.
The
the guy.
input.
He had 3 days.
The guy. I mean,
do it. I had a guy. I got a guy who gives me. I got a guy actually who sells me misinformation wholesale. And so you never have to
I picked this guy up from a Jimmy Dore who fired him after he fought some activists.
this producer can't get it right.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Unbelievable. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check.
Gotcha. Thank you, everybody, including chat, for kind of piecing together the way the New York system works, because I didn't know that. I thought like these, I think I was thinking about how the judges on the higher court get appointed and filtered through a process, not this. Yeah, so like on top of just being like incredibly racist, like Dave Rubin just literally does not know how the process works, and then confidently asserts, an absurd lie that's wrong in like 20 different ways. Cool.
Conservative pollster Frank Luntz is running into a bit of an issue with independent swing voters. And that issue is that ever since Donald Trump's criminal conviction, those swing voters seem a lot less likely to vote for the Republican candidate. Here is what the New York Times reported. Frank Luntz conducted a focus group for the New York Times, and they reported this. All 11 participants in our Times Opinion focus group were swing voters. They had supported or been open to Hillary Clinton or Mr. Biden at least once in 2016, 2020, or 2024, and backed or considered Mr. Trump at least once in those years as well. These voters all said they were struck by the verdict, even swayed in different ways, yet Mr. Trump's guilt didn't decisively turn them against the former president, a point that was Mr. Luntz's biggest takeaway from the group. Inflation, the economy, immigration, and abortion were the things that they said would ultimately determine their votes. Now, the reason I read you that is because that's a little interesting, right? He's like, well, I mean, it didn't necessarily sway them to not vote for Trump. And then it immediately goes on to quote these people who say that they will never vote for Donald Trump. You have one 55-year-old social worker who said she wasn't excited for Biden and said that she would need a, quote, very stiff drink after voting for him. However, quote, Mr. Trump was now beyond the pale, she said. I cannot have the president be a convicted felon, full stop. A 31-year-old said this, I'm an attorney. Say what you want about the charging decision and the prosecutorial discretion of Alvin Bragg, but at the end of the day, 12 people in a...
Hope you grow and you got a cool channel. Well, thank you, but I'm pretty sure we have not much to talk about.
Box, and you never know what 12 people in a box are going to do. We're able to come to a decision. So, he also agrees they did this. There it is. The report continues, if these voters are any indication, the guilty verdict will complicate Mr. Trump's bid for the White House. Character and integrity mattered for the presidency, and discussed with Mr. Trump could tip the scales for some of them in the end. And that's the thing. This isn't about turning away all of the independent or undecided or swing voters or whatever the hell you want to call them. Those are the people who typically maybe even split, maybe 55-45 one way or the other. But what these people are saying, like literally saying, is that I don't like Biden, but there's no way in hell I'm going to vote for a convicted felon. So maybe I need a stiff drink after I vote for Biden, but I'm not going to vote for the other guy. When you have these people who could go...
Who is this guy? This is Fair and Balanced with Fair and Cousins. I'll leave you alone with empty chat. True. My chat is so empty. Sorry,
one
guys.
way or the other, telling you where they're...
Guys, I've just been informed that you don't exist. Chat, press 1 if you don't exist. Okay. Press 1 if you're in an empty chat.
They're not gonna go. That's a bad sign, and it does, contrary to what Luntz claims, it does show that this conviction is swaying voters in the opposite direction of Donald Trump. So you can't sit there and listen to these people say these horrible things about Trump and the conviction and then be like, well, it didn't really sway any of them. They literally told you it swayed them. Like, that is insane that the New York Times would even publish Luntz saying that. But it is what it is. Independent voters are being turned off, and poll after poll following the conviction has shown the exact same thing. There are no...
Sorry, guys. Look, all of you don't exist. Empty chat. You don't exist. You don't exist, folks. Yeah. Look, we got a 1 in chat. I ain't scared of nobody. No, I'm sorry, Kamikaze. Apparently you don't exist. This is just a ghost. All of you are just ghosts. Sorry. Silly.
Outliers, folks. And it is completely different, too, when you hear them say the words. You know, like that one person that I read said it's beyond the pale to consider voting for a convicted felon. You know, it's one thing to say it to a pollster like, no, I'm leaning Biden now, not leaning Trump. But to hear the rationale behind it and to publish the rationale behind it encourages more groupthink. I promise you, there's no undecided voters in this country who, following Donald Trump's conviction, are saying, oh, hell yeah, I am definitely voting for him now. That's not happening. And if it is, it's happening in such a small number that those people are being far outweighed by the voters that have now been turned off. Hey everybody, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we are closing in on a pretty major milestone here at Fair and Balanced as we approach 500,000 subscribers.
I needed to ban someone getting itchy trigger fingers. That's okay. They'll be alright. They'll be alright. Like the Sixth Sense, we're not here. Yeah, exactly. And a completely empty chat. Thanks for showing me this YouTube channel. No problem. Yeah, look, more empty chat. Man. That's wild. I didn't know chat was so empty that you keep typing. Oof. Can you even ban yourself? Like, is that even an option? I'm genuinely curious. No, I can't. Well, I'm the owner of the channel, but I can't ban myself because it's my channel. Finally understand why Trump thinks he was cheated and was voted unanimously. If you don't count the people that just don't exist because they don't agree with Trump, then in that case, it's very reasonable. Yeah, I suppose if you want to superimpose that reality, I guess that if you want to superimpose that reality that you want to make up in your head, yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? Because, you know, the only people that matter are the people that agree with you, right? The only people that matter are the people that agree with you. And if they don't agree with you, then they don't count. Can't ban yourself from my knowledge. I'm not willing to take this one. But does it even give you an option when you're in the chat and when you click as a moderator, when you click on your own name, does it give you the option to ban? Yeah, you can definitely join the Discord. I'm not saying to actually ban yourself. I'm saying, does it even give you the option? I'm actually genuinely curious now. No banning option. Okay, well, I guess we solved one of life's greatest mysteries. Yeah, this tracks. Back 6 years ago, it did give the option, but it would give an error, can't ban or time out someone of the same rank or higher than yourself. Gotcha. I reported him for talking shite. I actually took a look at the I actually took a look at the whatchamacallit, the Twitter feed, and yeah. It's it's exactly as you would expect it. Here, I'll give you like one example. This is all like literally like the only example that you need right here. 2 minutes explanation of why 9/11 was something completely different than the narrative they force fed us. This isn't fucking 9/11 truthing. With some random conspiracy theories. And sprinkled in here is like some like pro-Palestine stuff. Anti-vax stuff. Leftism and liberalism are just worship of ugliness, dysgenic, and hate of the family and people's biological gender. True. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can kind of like... I think we can kind of pick up what's being thrown down here. So, yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure we would have nothing to talk about. Yeah. I'd be so happy if Dark Brandon come out during the debate. Our ex-rapists and thieves would love to eliminate the Constitution, eliminate everyone's rights. All right. Trump to undergo probation interview for New York hush money case on Monday afternoon. So, hey, maybe we have an idea of what's going to happen. Former President Trump is expected to attend a pre-sentencing interview on Monday afternoon ahead of his July 11th sentencing in the New York criminal case. A probation officer is expected to conduct the interview, which Trump will attend remotely from his Mar-a-Lago residence in Palm Beach, Florida, to prepare a report recommending the appropriate punishment for Judge Juan Merchant to impose at the former president's sentencing next month. So, maybe we're getting some insight as to what potentially might happen. Maybe he might just get away with it with a slap on the wrist. I feel like X likes to show us what Elon Musk's view. Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That's true. I don't disagree with that. I don't have time to go through all of these, but we'll go through the important ones. We'll go through we'll go through this as fast as possible. Alex Jones agrees to liquidate assets to pay Sandy Hook families in move that would end his ownership of InfoWars. Friggin' finally. Is this the crying scene? Are we gonna get a crying scene? Oh, I'm not watching all that ads just for that.
You know what's brilliant? Boring. Think about it. Boring is the unsung catalyst.
Nope. Right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones on Thursday moved to liquidate his personal assets, agreeing to demands from the families of Sandy Hook victims, whom he owes more than $1.5 billion in damages over his lies about the 2012 school massacre. The seismic move paves the way for a future in which Jones no longer owns InfoWars, the influential conspiracy empire he founded in the 1990s. Over the years, Jones has not only used the media company to poison public discourse with vile lies and conspiracy theories, but also to enrich himself to the tune of millions of dollars. Prior to Thursday, Jones had resisted converting his personal bankruptcy into a Chapter 7 liquidation, but facing mounting legal pressure, he reversed course and caved to the demands of the Sandy Hook families, who have not seen a penny from Jones since juries in Connecticut and Texas found him liable in 2022 for defamation and emotional distress. His lawyers said in a filing that there was no reasonable prospect of a successful reorganization, and that continuing down the path would only result in additional expenses incurred by Jones. The legal maneuver means Jones' ownership in free speech systems is going to get sold, said Avi Moschenberg, an attorney who represents some of the Sandy Hook families, told CNN on Thursday night, referencing the parent company of InfoWars. Converting the case to Chapter 7 will hasten the end of these bankruptcies and facilitate the liquidation of Jones' assets, which is the same reason we've moved to convert his company's case to Chapter 7, said Chris Mattel, another attorney representing the Sandy Hook families. Jones technically has not controlled InfoWars business for some time, given that Free Speech Systems has also filed for bankruptcy protection. The company's business has thus been under the supervision of courts. Of a court-appointed restructuring officer. A hearing is scheduled for next Friday to determine the fate of Free Speech Systems. So, yeah. Womp, womp, womp. Bro, you need someone to talk to? You can't keep this up, man. Can't keep what up? I heard someone make the joke that the clips of Jones crying says that he needs to take a class from Rittenhouse, the crocodile tears. True. You can't keep this up. I'm down. Down to what? Wait, I remember you. No, I'm not down to talk. I remember you. You are ban evading, sir. Yeah, I think I do. I'm pretty sure I've seen a variety of that username. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've seen a variety of that username before. Yeah, and I remember somebody else making a comment about their username too. Because it was it's asparagus, but maybe they used a different vegetable. I can't remember. What is the best media for best social media for free speech? Depends on what you mean. You mean like the government? You mean like allowing like free flow of information? They all allow you to post stuff. You just can't post like stuff that would go against their terms of service. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. Yeah, they really need attention. All right, folks. I think we should probably end with this one. Momentum grows behind Democratic boycott of Netanyahu speech. Growing chorus member, broccoli. I forget. There's something bouillon. It may have been just a different spelling, but I know I have seen that username before. Okay, I know I've seen that. Maybe it's not in this. Maybe it's not in this channel. Maybe it's in another channel that I saw this username. Because I mod for a couple of channels. Or maybe it was in this. I can't remember. But I know I've seen a variation of that username. The Reddits and chants tend to be less restrictive on restrictions. Yeah, we're ending on a high note. I don't recall anyone with a veggie name, but my memory isn't the greatest. No, it may not have been here. Yeah, it may not have been here, but I feel like I've seen this before. Anyways, a growing chorus of House Democrats say they're planning to steer clear of next month's speech by Benjamin Netanyahu before a joint meeting of Congress, arguing that Israeli Prime Minister's handling of the Hamas war and his repeated snubbing of President Biden's preferred approach to the conflict demand a show of protest from liberals on the Capitol Hill. Some Democrats have foreshadowed the boycott earlier this year amid speculation that Speaker Mike Johnson was poised to invite Netanyahu to the Capitol to push back against Democratic criticism of the conservative Israeli leader. Sure. With the invitation now official and the speech set for July 24th, just more and more progressive Dems are emerging with a formal declaration of their own. We won't be there. I won't attend and turn my back towards him, said Representative Hank Johnson, so I'm just going to stay away. The bad blood between Netanyahu and liberals on Capitol Hill is hardly new. Progressive Democrats have long denounced Netanyahu's conservative policies, including his sharp criticism of the Iran nuclear deal under former President Obama, which led to a boycott of the Prime Minister's last speech almost a decade ago. Those old hostilities are still lingering, even as Democrats have found new reason to revile Netanyahu over his military campaign in Gaza. He imported a little controversy the last time he was here, said Representative Stephen Lynch. I thought he was disrespectful to the president, so I'm not inclined to attend. A boycott may not be the only way lawmakers showcase their opposition to Netanyahu when he visits Washington next month. Representative Lloyd Doggett, a deputy whip for the Congressional Progressive Caucus who has served in the House since 1995, said the conversations are underway about the best method to protest in a controversial speech. There's still some debate about the best way to respond to his coming. I'm not planning on attending, or I'll be participating in whatever events there are to express that we want this war to end and we want both him and Hamas to agree to a ceasefire. The boycotting liberals would cut a sharp contrast with the other Democrats who are vowing to attend to the speech to demonstrate a degree of solidarity with a Democratic ally in a time of war. They're our strongest ally in the Middle East. He's obviously the leader we've chosen, and I respect the country very much. He's obviously the leader that they've chosen, and I respect the country very much, and I will be there, said Juan Vargas. Top House Democrats are already bracing for the internal divisions that will accompany the Israeli leader's visit to the capital. Pete Aguilar, the chair of House Democratic Caucus, said it is their right and ability if members want to skip the event. And House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who will attend, said each lawmaker will have to make their own determination ahead of the speech. All of us recognize that every individual member has to make that decision to participate on their own based on what they believe is consistent with the district that they represent. There is some precedent for the current situation. Netanyahu faced a sizable boycott during his last address to Congress in 2015, when he used his time in the chamber to vilify Obama and the administration's Iran nuclear deal, marking an unprecedented attack by a foreign leader on U.S. soil. Fueling the controversy, then Speaker Boehner coordinated Netanyahu's speech without consulting the White House. At least 58 Democrats or lawmakers skipped the speech, according to CNN, some of which are planning to avoid that event, including Doggett and Schakowsky, a Jewish Democrat. You'll never guess who Representative Juan Vargas' top donor is. No way. It's not AIPAC, is it? The role that the Prime Minister is playing is very negative, and I don't want to be there. He needs to be staying in Israel and working for the peace that he is unwilling to support in the past. Despite the Hamas atrocities and all the wrong that exists there, the indiscriminate bombing that he has encouraged has led to loss of lives that should have never happened. He has not prioritized the hostages. He ought to be doing that instead of coming here. The Israeli military announced on Saturday that it rescued 4 hostages during an operation in central Gaza in a win for the embattled prime minister. The raid, however, also led to the deaths of 274 Palestinians. So, yeah. That's nice. Another notable absence in 2015 was then Vice President Joe Biden, who instead of sitting on the dais behind Netanyahu was traveling abroad. You said it right. Well, one of those two was right. This year, some Democrats are predicting an even larger show of opposition. I've spoken to several members of the House and the Senate, and actually gone to the last speech at last time he was here, even though they had a lot of misgivings about it and have been clear that they're not planning to go, said Representative Pramila Jayapal, ahead of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, who noted that she will not attend the address. One exception to that trend is Steve Cohen, who's a Jewish Democrat who skipped the 2015 speech but plans to attend this year. It's more controversial then because Obama wasn't included. It was kind of a breach in protocol, said Cohen, but I think I'll go because, it's a war. It's a different situation. Sure. Netanyahu's address marks the latest flashpoint in the long simmering tension within the Democratic caucus over Israel, with staunchy pro-Israel Democrats finding themselves at odds and time again, with pro-Palestine progressives outraged at the large and growing number of civilian deaths. Like, man, imagine the justification, the juxtaposition we have here. So we have on one end, staunchly pro-Israel Dems finding themselves at odds with pro-Palestinian progressives who are mad at Czech's notes the large and growing number of civilian deaths. That's what they're mad about, and apparently that's something to be at odds about. How absurd. Gotta go. See you tomorrow. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. How absurd does that sound, right? The division is one group is outraged at the large and growing number of civilian deaths, and the other group is we're just gonna, we're just supporting the other thing. Man. Basically, another way of putting it, we have one group that's mad that there's a inexcusable amount of civilian deaths, and the other people aren't necessarily doing anything about it and supporting the party that's doing said civilian deaths. Yeah, that's cool. The friction was on full display on Thursday when Johnson and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell officially announced that Netanyahu's address would take place July 24th, a statement that notably omitted Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Jeffries. Last week, all 4 congressional leaders signed a letter inviting Netanyahu to the Capitol. Yeah, so I think that, like, if there's a lot of people, a lot of Dems who are going to plan to boycott it, maybe if there's enough of them, maybe if there's enough of them, they should make a huge stink about it, and show up to protest. But yeah, if there's not enough, then yeah, I think the best move would be to just boycott it altogether. But if there's a sizable amount, then what they should do is get together and nonstop protest the entire speech from beginning to end, and coordinate that so that they are able to keep the protest going, if there's enough of them throughout the entire speech. Honestly, at this point, I would wonder if Israel has killed more hostages than Hamas has. Well, that's up for debate. Okay, folks, I gotta get going. We're gonna have to go through some of these tomorrow. Definitely tune in because we missed a couple. All right, folks, I gotta get going. Thank you all for stopping by. I appreciate it. Thank you, the Simon Locker. Thank you, Footlong, Kamikazion. I appreciate that. Michael Hassner, Ruben, thank you so much for mixing it up in the chat. BPCL, thank you for stopping by. Kamikazion, thank you so much. Abon, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. JF Me, thank you so much for stopping by and mixing it up in the chat. And thank you all for educating me on how the New York system works. Wolfglen, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. If I missed you, I am sorry, but thank you for stopping by. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the follows. Folks, keep liking the stream on the YouTube. I appreciate it. Subscribe. Do the awesome stuff. Like the stream. Follow us here on Twitch. Join the Discord, folks. Join the Discord. And consider checking out the merch store if you want to support the channel. I appreciate it. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Michael Hasser, for modding the chat. I appreciate it. Folks, as always, we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you all for stopping by. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Alviana, hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. That's time for me to get some dinner. Dinner's here, folks. See ya.
Change on the subway train.
All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.
Don't believe it if you please.